Today for '08 on Drupal, I'm joined by Seth, founder and CEO of '08, and Tyler, Director of Customer Success and Strategy. Drupal is one of our key areas of expertise here at '08, but many people seem to have questions on this open source CMS. So first things first, what is Drupal and what's so great about it?
Yeah, Drupal's a really great open source content management system that is ready to support organizations and enterprise that have needs that really oftentimes exceed those of WordPress or other kind of like what you see is what you get or WYSIWYG site style builders. It really supports content that's highly structured and large pools of that content across bigger organizations, much better than some of those other alternatives can do.
Yeah, and I would just add it's a true framework. You know, I compare it to scaffolding for a building or architecture. It's something that is really malleable and extensible. It doesn't make a lot of assumptions out of the gate, so it's very flexible for building more complex or very custom solutions.
So Drupal's been releasing a lot of updates. Do we know how many institutions are still on Drupal 7 or even an older version of Drupal?
Yeah, as of the taping of this, there's approximately 700,000 Drupal 7 sites out there according to Drupal.org, out of a total of about 1.1 million Drupal sites. That accounts for between 60 to 70%, depending on which numbers you're looking at, of all Drupal sites that are still on Drupal 7, which is an astounding number. That's a lot of sites that need to get moved over relatively quickly before they fall out of support in November 2021.
So could I just keep my site on Drupal 7 or an older version, or do I really need to go through this intimidating upgrading process?
You certainly could leave it on Drupal 7. There's going to be an extended paid extended support period with Drupal 7 that goes beyond November 2021. But generally those programs are really best for just extending timelines for migrations that take longer than you had initially planned for. They're not great for just keeping your site on Drupal 7 long term. While technically you could continue to pay that extended support fee, what you're going to see over time is the usefulness, that utility of the site that you rely on slowly become degraded. That means that developers are going to shift their attention from supporting the Drupal 7 plugins, modules, those types of things that your site relies on. Support for those is going to slowly dwindle away over the coming months, and especially looking into 2021. And so it'll be really important if you want to maintain functionality of your site, assuming that you have anything beyond vanilla Drupal, which most Drupal sites do, you'll definitely want to start planning now to make the switch to Drupal 8 or Drupal 9.
Yeah, and I would just add that at this point, most sites on Drupal 7 have gone through a lot of rework, a lot of menu changes, content changes. The business has grown and changed. Design patterns in the industry have changed. So, think of it as an opportunity to refresh your site. That's going to be needed and going to set you up for a lot of success in the future. And then we might talk about this later, but once you get to that Drupal 8 standpoint, you will be able to upgrade more easier to Drupal 9. And really, this is a great opportunity to get you into kind of a more agile marketing mindset. Let's always keep it up to date. Let's always, change, innovate on the fly. So it's a really good opportunity for businesses that don't see the technical side to think about it as a business opportunity as well.
That's a really great point, Seth. A lot of our clients, like you said, they've had that kind of buildup of both content and functionality over the years. And oftentimes supporting that legacy content and functionality comes at great expense. These replatforms, these upgrades are a great opportunity to really take a look and say, what's actually serving our business well, what's providing value to the business and our users, let's focus our efforts on that and let some of these other pieces fall away where we can. That's going to yield you, over the course of the initial rollout to Drupal 8 or 9, there's going to be effort involved in that, but that's going to save you dollars in the long term, especially in the support and maintenance realm.
So as someone in business relationships, I find myself coming across a lot of leaders, particularly chief information officers, that are pretty intimidated by this process. They're making it a major focus. Why do you think that is? Is it a lack of resources, time, cost? What do you think?
I think it's all the above. A redesign or replatform like this is no small feat. That's not to say that there aren't things that you can do to smooth it out, but it does take a significant amount of time, resources, and dollars to execute well. Additionally, over time, again, looping back to the idea that, these sites have built up lots of functionality over the years. Some organizations are a little, skittish or even afraid to start pulling away at some of that, just because so many of their core business processes may be running on it. It's scary to, have to replatform that, especially when it's such a vital part of your business. So that's where it really becomes important to, work with a partner that has done lots of these and they have a good track record of success, and really making sure that you're putting in the time up front to make sure that you're planning that foundation that the whole rest of that project is going to run through. That's really rock solid.
Absolutely. And I would just add that, you're still migrating from Drupal to Drupal. Drupal 8 is definitely different in many ways, but this isn't some totally alien system. There are modules to help you upgrade a Drupal 7 module that's not already on 8 if you have something custom, for example.
So I think the other big piece here is the skills gap or perception of a skills gap. While there are major differences between Drupal 7 and Drupal 8, including like the core templating engine, Twig, a lot of management teams perceive that change as something that their teams, it's going to take lots of time and energy to get them up to speed with those new changes, especially because they're so central to the content management system. Again, another benefit of working with an experienced partner is that you're going to be able to learn. Your internal teams are going to be able to learn from those partners, and really a true partnership, work together to help bring up the skill set of that internal team, help them to feel more comfortable and supported, not only through the migration, but actually through the launch and into the long-term maintenance and support of that new site.
Absolutely. And I would just add, Drupal 8 is going to be a better version of what you had if you do it right. For example, the configuration management initiative, we can deploy changes more easily from dev to staging to production. That sets you up for a more enterprise workflow if you care about things not breaking as easily, when developers push updates. Also, the admin user experience is better. And like Tyler said before, this is where all of the innovation is happening in the Drupal community. So an upgrade, it might seem a little daunting, but it's the same language, same ecosystem, same community. So working with an experienced partner, it really should not be that daunting at all.
And in the long term, I think those changes, because they're helping to bring Drupal more in line with the modern content management system, it's going to make finding and onboarding resources in the long term much easier. You're not going to have to find a developer that knows the Drupal way, so to speak. So long as they're familiar with like PHP templating engines, which Twig is super popular, they're going to be able to jump into Drupal with relatively little ramp up time. Same thing with the content contributor experience, because that has been overhauled so drastically. It's really going to help folks who are new coming into the CMS to really decrease that Drupal learning curve in the future. So
since Drupal 9 Beta 1 was released this week, can't I just wait and save the money, save the time, and migrate straight to D9?
My opinion is that you can do it now if you have an experienced enough level of Drupal on your staff, or you're working with an intelligent partner who knows what they're doing. And if you have enough lead time so that, Drupal 9 will get out of beta by the time you get to Drupal 9 pristine version. But, that's definitely for much longer projects, and I wouldn't recommend it, for in most cases. Sometimes it makes people feel better if they're already on 9, but really, you get to 8, you start declaring your modules as compatible for both, and the actual flip over to 9 is going to be, just like a minor version of 8, like 8.1, 8.2. So once, really for 95% of projects, I would say it makes the most sense to just get over to 8, and by the time 9 is all buttoned up, maybe even wait until another major version comes out, depending on how things go. But get to 8, and then the flip to 9 should be super easy. I don't know. That's my opinion right now. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Trying to develop a site that's going to go into production while core is still in beta, and a lot of the modules, that means that the modules that you're going to rely on are still in alpha oftentimes, or maybe they haven't even started making the switch. That really, in my experience, increases the cost for your project, just because you're trying to, pin the tail on a moving donkey here. Whereas, Seth, like you were saying, waiting until there's, a stable version of 9, and then, maybe even a version into that when a lot more of those vital modules have rolled over and become stable out of alpha or beta. That's really going to be your best bet, is going to 8, waiting for those things in 9 to stabilize, and then, continuing your upgrade path, which should be quite seamless with Drupal 9.
So this sounds like the smart thing to do for any organization, to go ahead and begin the migration. But what does that migration process entail? And when I come to a partner like O8, how do you determine cost, timeline, things like that?
For us, and you heard me talk about this earlier, but planning is really vital. Starting the migration process with a really in-depth inventory of all of the content that the CMS is going to be dealing with, as well as any of those integrations that are vital to your business. That's going to be super important, so that you can make sure that you have a clear path, even on a field by field basis, if you're going to try and do a programmatic migration, to make sure that this goes smoothly for you. This process also helps you to begin the mapping kind of on the before and after version. If you're going to be making any changes to your paths or your information architecture, which hopefully you've learned some things from your site over the years, and your analytics, and you're going to make those improvements or enhancements, it'll help you to ensure that you have a clear map to preserving the link juice, so to speak, from an SEO perspective, to make sure that this redesign and migration doesn't have a negative impact on your SEO efforts.
Absolutely. And with anything that's going to require a decent amount of effort, kind of like we've been saying, this is your chance to really drive those business goals, marketing goals, KPIs, whatever they are. And, this is the time to do things right, right as far as with your current business. Things have changed over the last year, so this is your time to do things right, get up to date, and really build something that's a digital marketing machine, also on a new technology. It gets you up to date, blah, blah, blah. But, thinking at a business level, you want to do this the right way.
Yeah, and once you go through that planning process to that you're putting your project on the right path, then we move into the actual development, building out the skeleton, the framework of the new site, starting the theming process to kind of flesh out the look and feel around that skeleton. And then from there, we go through a process where we create what are called stubs, or just a blank entry for each of the pieces of content to help with the migration process and allow the interlinking of content that makes websites what they are significantly easier And then from there, you go through and you can either programmatically import or manually import the individual page contents into those blank stub files, which, you know, then you essentially have your whole tree from there. And then, you know, of course, throughout that process, we're doing testing and QA and things like that. But then we can begin to dig into the integrations and really put all of the fancy parts onto the site, digging into the analytics, you know, implementation and things like that to make sure that you have the data moving forward that's going to allow you to, you know, make intelligent data-informed decisions about your site and your marketing efforts. As far as cost and timeline go, those two are really variable based on the size of the site, the complexity, the functionality, and the number of integrations and the depth to which those integrations are required to, you know, really hook into core Drupal data. These processes can run, you know, anywhere from 6 months up to a year plus, depending on the size and complexity again. So it's really important to start minimally the planning process, like yesterday, to make sure that you're giving yourselves enough time to then actually execute on that. And again, oftentimes, because the website is such a central piece to your business, there are going to be factors outside of the actual project that are going to need to be considered, like training folks and making sure that your new marketing pieces are aligning with, you know, the future pages and the landing pages, and their you know, paths and things are all lining up. So it's really important to start that planning process early so that you can ensure a smooth rollout when the site is actually ready to go live.
Absolutely. And of course, you know, let's not forget about user experience, even though everyone should always be thinking about it. This is an opportunity for your admins. You know, some of them maybe based on how your Drupal 7 site is put together from the admin sort of experience, maybe it's not desirable or it's a little hard for them to use. Now's the time to do that right. And then, of course, thinking about your site users, ensuring that we're looking at the data from the old site, not just building a new site just because we can, looking at the data from the old one and seeing, okay, there's some problem areas here. This is how we can do better on the user experience with the new site as well.
Absolutely. And while, you know, looping back to one of the original questions around, can we just, you know, wait and stay on Drupal 7 a little longer? You know, you certainly can with that safety net of the paid extended support. But again, you're just at that point really increasing the costs for something that you're going to have to do anyways, which is this migration. And so again, we're big fans of starting early and leaving yourselves time so that you aren't running up against, you know, that cliff, and then just ending up increasing your costs for this migration by needing to buy into that extended support offering.
That makes a lot of sense. Cool. Well, thanks, guys. I think that was super useful information, and cue the outro music.